You rehearse the conversation in your head 27 times. Then you finally say the thing. 2 seconds later, they get defensive. And then you get reactive. And instead of addressing the issue, suddenly you're explaining yourself. Most uncomfortable conversations fail before they even started, because nobody taught us how to enter the conversation emotionally. What to do when your partner shuts down, when your colleague gets defensive, when your word is taken out of context and twisted against you, when you're triggered. I'm Petra Williams, and for over a decade now, I've been helping people turn their conflict, their anger, and even self-doubt into power, freedom, and confidence, whether that's in personal relationships or in business and career. Let's define what I mean when I say uncomfortable conversations. You may know them as crucial conversations, because where does the discomfort come from? It comes from a conflict that you anticipate or a conflict that might already be open. Emotions run high, the stakes might be high because you feel like there's something to lose, and you have different points of view. And you know upfront it's going to be uncomfortable. Successful conversation doesn't mean that no one got triggered. The opposite of conflict is connection. First, it might sound obvious, but still, check with yourself. This is where brutal honesty with yourself comes to the table. Why do you want to talk about it? If your aim has anything to do with their reaction, you're setting yourself up for failure, because there's only so much you can do to impact the other person's behavior and how they feel about what you said. What you can absolutely control is where you're coming from and how you communicate it. So we'll focus purely on yourself right now in this entire equation. How you approach the conversation, what is your mindset, what is your aim, and what are your unconscious expectations, that can make or break the conversation. First of all, you have this deep dive into your actual motives for this conversation. That might require some digging and some brutal honesty, but you will understand when I just say it out loud, that if your goal is to vent, to get it out of your chest, to punish someone, to control, if your goal is revenge or a sense of validation, looking for some, that is not going to get you very close to feeling at the end that the conversation was worth having. It might give you a temporary relief, but it doesn't help in the long term. What you can and absolutely should expect from a conversation is to get a deeper understanding, to learn more, both about the other person and yourself, because it's a two-way street. What you want to be and do and feel is as open as possible. What you can expect as a reward for overcoming the discomfort and for investing your effort into the relationship and the connection is ease and clarity. Oh my God, the lightness that comes out on the other side naturally, just because there is nothing more hidden, no residue, no resentment towards this person. This simple thing is worth having the whole conversation, even if there is no agreement at the end, even if you agree to disagree, because a successful conversation isn't the one where you align at the end. It is the one where you were willing to be honest and where you were willing to understand and try to understand the other person and yourself better. And when you can see where you're coming from really and where they come from and where they're coming from, that will lead to releasing some of the judgment against them, some of that frustration with them. Your understanding is the key. You don't have to agree with them, but you can understand their way of thinking, at least from some angle, from some perspective. Now let's talk about why most conversations fail. And it's not because of the wrong usage of words. It's because we get triggered in the process, especially when we fixate on the tone that someone uses, if we interpret their body language in a certain way. And lastly, when we focus more on a specific word that's taken out of context, and then we abandon the main issue all at once. One of the biggest forms of self-mastery is to stay connected to the actual topic when the emotions rise. It's being able to bring reason still to the table. And for that, you need all of that preparation before. For that, you need to stay calm, because once the emotions rise too much, your IQ lowers. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. When those emotional parts of our brain turn on and get aroused, and when those neural connections get really wired, your ability to stay rational, to stay sensible, to see it from someone else's perspective really shrinks in that moment. This has all to do with our nervous system, with projection, which is the mechanism when we project our own triggers, our own fear, our own pain points, our own trauma, big T or little t, from the past onto the other person. We project our own limitations on them. That's what triggers us the most. This is where you can get the biggest bang for your buck in terms of your own personal development in conflict. If you can notice and truly observe what are your trigger points, what did that person do, what did they say, whatever that back and forth is, whatever that reaction, feedback on the other side is, what you can get the most out of is what you get triggered around. Because that says much more about yourself than them. If you're in a conversation and you read their body language as disrespectful, or their tone of voice as disrespectful, and that drives you mad, and that's when you start losing your sense of sensibility, that means you need to focus on how you relate to respect and to disrespect towards others and towards yourself. And the more of these trigger points you've been able to understand and to integrate for yourself, the more you can stay calm, truly calm, not just pretend calm, truly calm and content, even in the moments of heightened tension, heightened conflict. Because you don't take it so personally now. Even when a trigger happens in the moment, all of these moments, you're able to notice, oh, that was just a trigger. Or, oh, that doesn't really matter. Let's keep focusing on what we need to solve. That's masterful. So your first step was to have a good check with yourself around the goal of the conversation, your expectations from it, and your mindset that you enter it with. The second step is to observe and continuously work on your own triggers. Because the more you do that, the more capacity it gives you, the more power it gives you to stay calm, steady, self-assured in any kind of storm that might be swirling around you. Staying steady under pressure and not shrinking under pressure, that's a great sign of your leadership, maturity, and also intimacy with knowing yourself. How this happens, how do you stay steady under pressure, is when you don't react instantly. You're not reactive as a fuse. You stay in the moment, present to everything that's going on. And if need be, you can take the time, you can make a pause. And whether that pause is 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 30 minutes, or a week, if you know that's what needs to happen to continue the conversation in the best way possible, then that's what you're able to do and decide. Another part of staying steady under pressure is to stay curious in the conversation. That's the open-minded part. To stop yourself from judging immediately what the other person says or does, but staying curious in what their motive might be. What is the actual need that they've been trying to fulfill for themselves? And yes, this might sound very psychological, but that is what it takes to get that deep understanding of the people around you and yourself. So you're listening without collapsing, without contracting within your body, and without staying rigid within your thinking. The more you do this, the more respect you get from people around you, the more they trust you with those conversations where they might feel vulnerable, maybe ashamed, maybe fearful, maybe the project isn't going the way they really want it to, or there's a different thing that's stopping them from performing at their best. But if you show that you can hold the discomfort and you can stay steady and move from that, then they know they can talk to you. Last but not least, with staying steady under pressure, is to have a part of your attention during the conversation on your body, aimed at yourself, so that you can keep noticing and checking where you are. This helps you, again, to stay present in the moment rather than spiraling with your thoughts one way or the other. And these are the main 3 steps to take before and during the conversation, so that you check the goal, you observe your triggers, and you stay steady even under that pressure and tension rising, so that you can enjoy the fruit of all of this discomfort. Because if you're conducting the conversation this way, may it be a crucial conversation, a challenging one, or uncomfortable, you're much closer to experiencing even more ease in communication, even more efficiency in the outcomes. Once we get the clarity, once we know actually what's going on and understand the motives, the behavior, and the expectations on all sides, that makes it so much easier to come up with the next steps, to come up with ways how to mitigate risks. Suddenly you're able to see solutions that just weren't available to you before. Because at the end of the conversation, that emotional center would have really calmed down, which means that the part of your reason, but also the part of your brain that has to do with creativity, gets to open up. Your nervous system is relaxed, you feel content and peaceful and powerful, because you've just endured this discomfort, because you've made it, because you were willing to do it, and it turned out well. And this is the biggest trust building and confidence building exercise that you will ever do. So remember, a successful difficult conversation isn't the one where no one gets triggered. It's impossible to avoid. Being triggered is a feature of relationships, not a bug. A successful conversation is the one where, whether that's work relationship or personal, it's safer to be honest and open than to stay quiet and avoid the topic. So what I invite you to now is to notice today and tomorrow, what are the conversations that you intend to have? What are those little or big moments when you feel like there's something to lose or there's something to gain if you're willing to step into the discomfort of having the conversation? This week, stop avoiding that conversation that's waiting to happen. Experiment with it. You don't even have to take all the steps all at once. Just take one out of the 3 that you feel like can bring you the biggest difference and move the needle the most right now. Whether you want to master to enter the conversation with a clean goal that doesn't come with emotional baggage, or you want to master your own triggers, or you want to focus on really holding the pressure, being able to navigate the tension in that conversation, choose which one you want to focus on and work on that. It really is one step at a time, one conversation at a time, when you become the leader that you want it to be, the person, the leading character that you know you can be. Let's stop the pain of untapped potential, that regret that you didn't say something, you didn't do something. And let's do it and say it today. I would love to know what resonated with you the most out of this conversation. What was the point, the sentence, or the question that you want to remember? And in order to remember it better, I would love for you to share it in the comments with me. I'd love to see it. If you have more topics that you want to learn about, let me know as well. I'm happy to answer your questions in future videos.